spring is right around the corner. So we've got to ask you all, is your RV ready to hit the road?
Too many RVers simply pull their rig out of storage, wipe the dust off, and head out on their first camping trip.
But the reality is those long, cold winter months are hard on your rig. So you need to inspect and prep your rig before you even pull it out of storage for that first big camping trip, because inevitably something is not gonna work right.
So this will give you time to either fix it yourself or get a professional in to fix it for you. Don't let any of these issues be a surprise that ruins your adventure.
So today we're gonna be looking at 10 things you should be inspecting and prepping before that first spring trip. These are all things that we see take people off of the road every single year. Okay, so I literally just got done editing this video. We were about to upload it and we got a text message from some folks that we did some work on their rig while we were here. You are not gonna want to miss what they found in their rig. Wasn't because of anything we did, so make sure you stick around for this whole video because you don't want to miss what can happen to your rig if you miss some of this maintenance.
So, quick disclaimer, before we get into all of these things, we're not going to be going into the nitty-gritty on how to do all of them, but we will go ahead and link videos down below for many of these maintenance/inspection items. So number one, we have our lug nut and wheel check. So if your rig has been sitting for a while, you really need to check your lug nuts. Don't just assume that they're at the same torque as you left them the last time you checked them. And while you're down here, go ahead and take a look at all of your suspension components. So your shackles, your leaf springs, wet bolts, go ahead and check those, make sure their torques are okay, and check for any cracking, damage, whatnot. And still talking about the wheels, your wheel bearings need to be repacked and inspected every 10 to 12,000 miles or once a year, depending on which one comes first. So you're already down here, you got your wheel off, you're doing your wheel bearings. This is a good time to look at those tires as well, and that's our next topic.
So tires, everybody checks their tire pressures and that's good. But when you're bringing this thing out of storage for the season, you need to be looking at more. You need to be looking for any kind of uneven wear along the tread surface. You need to be looking for any sidewall cracks or bulges. And don't just be looking at the outside, the inside of the wheels need to be inspected as well. That's why Candace mentioned that since you've got this wheel off for the wheel bearing maintenance, that's the perfect time to do a really detailed inspection on these tires. Now, it's not the only time you're gonna do that kind of inspection, but you got these wheels off, do a really good inspection on them. And RV tires will often age out before they wear out. And so you need to be looking at the date codes. For example, ours says 11 of 23. That means that our tires were manufactured the 11th week of 2023. And generally these tires are good for about 5 years. And again, this is a great thing to do when you get this thing out of storage in the springtime, but you really need to be doing this on a consistent basis.
So before we go any further, just wanted to remind you, we just released our first monthly newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for it and you want to get our once a month newsletter, go ahead and send us an email to our email address at fairwindsrv2022@gmail.com, and we will get you added to next month's newsletter.
Next up is we want to check all of our shore power connections, not just the cable, but all of the connections. And that's going to include where this thing plugs into the rig. So you want to check, obviously, the plug itself, and you want to check in here as well. You're looking for any kind of discoloration or anything that's deformed or anything that just looks like it's been overheated. Not only that, but if you're using, say, some sort of a dog bone to connect down from a 50 amp to a 30 amp, you need to make sure that that dog bone is in good shape. You want to check both ends of this thing to make sure that you don't see any of those indications of overheating. And again, like I said, all the connections. So you want to go all the way back to the side that's going to be plugged into the pedestal. You want to make sure that we don't have any of those signs of discoloration, deformity, anything like that. And if you have a surge protector, you want to do the same to that. You want to make sure that it looks safe to plug in. Let's just put it that way. If you look at one of these things and you go, man, that doesn't look right, it's probably not right. Because the reality is when you have an electrical problem in your RV, usually it doesn't give you any warning. It just happens, and a lot of times it can be catastrophic.
For your water system and your leak check, you want to go ahead and pressurize your system and check for leaks anywhere that you have any sort of piping. So under your sinks, in your shower area, if you have a washing machine, dishwasher in your wet bay. So go ahead and check all of those areas to make sure that you don't have any leakages, because a small leak now can wreak havoc and cause a ton of damage later. So you can do this in one of two ways. Either A, hook up to the city water connection and use that to pressurize your system, or go ahead and run off of your freshwater tank and use your water pump. Now, a good way to tell if you have a leak when you're using your water pump is if you hear your water pump kind of cycle on and off. You know, every few seconds, every 10 seconds or so. If it doesn't shut off when you shut your water off and just kind of cycles, then you know that you have a leak somewhere and you need to track it down.
All right, next we're going to talk about batteries. And voltage doesn't tell the whole story here, right? So if you got one of those control panels in there that gives you the status of the battery, you know, it might be all green and you think you're all good, but that's just not simply the end of it. So there are some things that you need to do, especially if you've got flooded lead acid batteries. So we'll talk about that one first. I don't have a flooded lead acid battery here, but for these batteries, you want to make sure that they have enough electrolyte inside of them. And this is an easy process. Flooded lead acid batteries have got caps right on the top of them. You just pull those caps up and you can just look right down inside. And as long as you see fluid level above all the plates that are sticking up, you're good to go. If not, then you need to add some distilled water just until that electrolyte level gets up above those metal plates. Now, if you've got AGM or a lithium iron phosphate battery like we do, this is much simpler. All you really need to do is just bring a cloth with you, come out here, wipe all the dust and dirt off of it, and then you're gonna wanna check your terminal connections because these things do get loose over time. Now, I'm not gonna tell you what you need to torque them to. We check your battery manufacturer and see what they say, but you should find out what that torque is and make sure that these battery terminals are properly torqued down, because those loose connections can cause all kinds of problems inside of your RV. It can cause your slides not to come in or out. Your refrigerator is going to have problems. So just make sure that these connections are tight to avoid all of those issues. Next, we're talking about water heaters. And it doesn't matter if you've got a tank water heater or tankless water heater, these things require some annual maintenance. So first, if it's a tank style water heater, you're gonna do a flush on it and you're gonna do a descaling on it. Again, we're not gonna go through the process of how to do those things, but what I'm gonna do is, one, if you've got a tank style water heater, we're gonna link a video down below from our friends at Why Wait, who do a very, very good job of walking through that. And if you've got a tankless water heater, we'll link a video down below directly from Lippert, walking you through that entire process. All right, in addition to actually cleaning out the inside of these things, obviously you wanna take a look around in here and make sure that you don't have any uninvited guests, mice or mud daubers, anything that shouldn't be in there. Mud daubers really like to get in here and build nests inside of these exhausts, and that's obviously really gonna impact the operation of these things. So now you've got it cleaned out, now you've got it all inspected here, you don't have any uninvited guests. Now what do? You want to use it. You want to turn this thing on and make sure you get hot water. I don't know how many calls we've received through our RV technician business where they say, hey, my water heater's not working. And I say, well, when was the last time you used it? And they say, well, it was last fall when I put it away. They didn't bother to check it before they went out on that first camping trip, and now they got no hot water. So clean it out thoroughly, inside, outside, and then verify that the thing works on both propane and electric.
Next are your slide outs, your jacks, and your awnings. So you want to take them all the way out, all the way in. You want to actually pay attention, watch the slide, the jack, the awning. Make sure that it's coming out evenly, that there's no jerkiness, that there's nothing odd going on, because you don't want to get to your first camping destination and your slide won't go out or your awning is all messed up. Side note on Schwintek slides, if you have them, you probably know that they can be problematic. So go ahead and check out the link in the description below for a previous video that we did talking about all the things relating to Schwintek and how you can hopefully avoid problems in yours.
Next, we want to take a look at all of the sealant all the way around our rig. So anything that needs to be sealed up around the lights, around the baggage doors, around the roof vents on the top, basically anywhere where water can get into your RV, you want to make sure that it's sealed up properly. Because the reality here is all those freezing and thawing cycles that you go through in the winter are really, really hard on your RV sealants. So for example, we can see it right in here, right on top of my tail light here, I've got a little bit of a hole and a little bit of a crack that I'm gonna need to seal back up here pretty soon. This inspection is one of the easiest that you can do, and it's gonna prevent the #1 killer of all RVs, which is water intrusion, because water intrusion will just eat your entire RV if you allow it to happen. All right, we're gonna pause here for a second. This is a rig from one of our neighbors here in the campground we're at right now. And we really wanted to show you why all this maintenance is so important. Now this is just gonna be talking about one aspect of all of that maintenance in this video, but this is why it's super, super important that we do these maintenance items. So what we've got here is, I had done a little bit of work on this rig already, and right up here on the outside along the roof seam, there was a really big tear in the roof material. So it's a TPO roof up here, and it was probably a 8 or 10 inch rip in the seam, and that was obviously causing some water intrusion in here. So on the outside of this wall you can see some delamination, and these folks, this is not something that we did here as a business, because this is not something I would tackle, but we noticed that there was some bubbling on the wall, some bumps on the wall, and so I know that that's an indication of mold. So I told these folks that they probably need to take down the wallpaper, and this is what we see in here. And this is just because there was a hole in the roofing material, and who knows how long that was going on, but this is why it's super, super important to be checking all of the sealant all the way around your rig as much as possible. This right here is gonna be a real pain in the neck to fix, and it's probably gonna be expensive. And then just as an added bonus, they can't stay in this room. There's way too much mold in here. You can actually smell this now that the wallpaper has been taken off. We just wanted to point this out because we literally just finished editing all this video, had it all ready to go, and we got some pictures of this, so we wanted to add this in here and just show the importance of this. If you're not doing inspection on all the sealant on your rig, hopefully this will convince you that you need to be doing that and you need to take it seriously. One final note on here, I don't know if this is gonna show up in the video, but you can see some delamination going on up here. If you don't know what delamination is, it looks like bubbling. It's basically where all that stuff in there is separating. Long story short. Anyway, so the final note on this is they bought this rig about 8 or 9 months ago, and those bumps that were in the wall were already there, but they didn't know what it was. You don't know what you don't know, right? But here's the thing, here's my point, is this is why it's so important that when you buy an RV, I don't care if it's brand new or if it's 20 years old, we always recommend a professional inspection be done on that RV. An inspector would have seen this immediately and would have gone up on the roof to make sure that everything was good, would have gone inside and would have noticed that. So that's the final note here. So #1, do your maintenance. #2, get an inspection if you're buying an RV, because it can just save you thousands of dollars. Now the inspection's easy to do, but if you're not comfortable with actually resealing everything, easy enough. Just get on RV Help and look for a local technician in your area, and they'll come out and take care of it for you. Next, we're gonna talk about pin boxes and hitches. Now there are just a lot of different types of pin boxes and hitches out there, so I'm not gonna get real specific on this. What I would say is that you need to check your manual to see what these maintenance items are. But in general, they're just gonna be, looking at general cleanliness of this thing, checking all of the torque specs on all of these bolts up here. Obviously, the last thing you want to see is this pin box fall off. That would be a really disastrous day. There may be pieces and parts that you need to put some grease into. Just get in your manual, see what those maintenance items are, and get it done. The same goes for your hitch. There's probably some stuff in there you need to grease. There are certainly some bolts in here that you need to make sure are torqued down properly. So again, just get in that manual, find out what the maintenance requirements are. They're easy to do. You just got to figure out what they are and get them done. Now we realize not everybody has a fifth wheel RV. So if you've got a bumper pull, you're going to be wanting to look at things like the hitch ball, the coupler, and your tongue jack. You definitely want to make sure that that tongue jack is working, because last thing you want to do is pull into that site and realize that you can't get your RV lifted up off of your tow vehicle. And then finally, if you've got a bumper pull and you've got some kind of sway control on there, don't forget to look at the maintenance requirements on those as well. Otherwise, you'll be fishtailing all the way down the highway.
Now let's talk about appliances and safety systems. So these are things like your refrigerator, your furnace, your air conditioner, propane systems, your carbon monoxide detector, your smoke alarms, and your fire extinguisher. So test everything. Go ahead and get your refrigerator up and running for a minimum of 12 hours before you hit the road, because the last thing you want is to get to your campground and realize that your ice cream's melted or your burgers have all thawed out. So verify that that's running. Verify that your furnace works if you're going to be going into colder temperatures. Again, you don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and find out that your furnace quit on you. And your AC. Make sure it actually turns on and it starts to cool the rig down. Speaking of ACs, this is a great time to get up there, if you haven't done so already, and do your annual cleaning and maintenance checks on your air conditioning units themselves, especially if they've been sitting out in the weather when leaves and debris have gotten pulled into kind of those coil areas. So finally, coming back to those safety items, you want to look at not only do your smoke detectors work and your carbon monoxide detector works, but you want to look at the dates on those as well. Those are typically good for about 5 to 7 years. So while you're checking them, go ahead and check those dates. And if you're within a couple of months of that expiration date, just go ahead and get new ones, get them installed, and make sure that you're safe. Spring is when RVs reveal what winter did to them. Spending an extra hour now inspecting those items before your first trip can save days of downtime and a lot of money.
And we realized we went through this very quickly, but that was kind of the point. We weren't trying to show you how to do all of these things, because there are a lot of videos out there that will walk you through the process on all of those things. Our goal was to just get you thinking about getting that RV prepped and inspected early before that first camping trip, so that you can actually enjoy wherever it is that you're going and whatever it is that you're doing. So if you like this video, do us a favor, hit that like button down there, hit that subscribe button, and while you're down there, hit that bell button so that you get notified of all of our future videos, because I know you all want to know when they're coming out. And until that future video, guys, happy camping and stay safe out there.